Tom, don't leave. I've got a couple of questions. This council has been faced with losing employment and losing sales tax revenue. And for the last several months, I think our major goal has been trying to satisfy those two losses that we're incurring. This particular site was the site inside the city limits that Trader Joe said they would locate. It was also land that needed to be developed. It was a part of the original development of that area. And when the opportunity from Trader Joe's was acknowledged, and a developer that had the connections and the ability to do the construction surfaced, obviously the staff was very interested. The city had embarked many years ago on a potential project for a hotel convention center project, and it had committed $5 million to that project, and it too was an economic development opportunity. Economy and several other things went south, and that project was never able to be built. Might mention that project did not have a 100% repayment to the city as this project does. There was lots of reimbursements that were designed into that. So I think it's fair, and I'd like to stress the points again. The city will use capital development money that cannot be used for a general fund.
Now be used for ongoing operations, correct?
So this is money that's available that we're now receiving under 2% interest on from the state. By using this money and making this purchase, we immediately take this to a 6% return to the city. So the $2 million, that by itself is $120,000 a year recovery to the city, as well as 100% of the sales tax that's generated. And there's one other item that we've not mentioned yet. The rent to the developer from the tenants is also a taxable event. So that's another 2% on that rent factor that becomes an income. At 5 years, there's an option for the developer to take us out, and we would like that. We would still receive 100% of the sales tax, and we would still receive 100% of the rental sales tax, and we would be home free. The proposals were designed to encourage the developer to take us out as soon as possible. And as other businesses are built and are producing sales tax in that area, and we think that this may be maybe even a small part of what the total opportunities are when that area is totally built out. So there is no exposure unless the whole world came to an end, I think. We have the #1 marketer for their type of business. They do more retail business per square foot than anybody in that business, and their track record is, from what I understand, is 100%. So I don't think we could do any better. I certainly appreciate, Brett, what you folks have stepped up to do, and this is truly an example of what a public-private partnership might look like, because the public portion gets 100% recovery plus the benefits. And we wish you all the success in the world. And a week from now, when we vote on this, well, let's hope that we're taking the bull by the horns and moving forward. So anything else from the council? That's you, Tammy.
First, I would also like to applaud Jane Bristol, Steve Norwood, Jim Lee, and Marlon, and of course Red for all their tenacity and determination. And so my comments are not directed at them, are not directed at Red, but my comments are really more directed on why I was elected. And my responsibility is to do my due diligence and to make the choices with taxpayer dollars that are very hard to come by. You know, I've been an unemployed teacher. I know how hard they are to come by. But also, when I was elected, I have core beliefs and values that people elected me to uphold, and that's why my comments are kind of a little bit different than most of the ones that you will see. First, I do not believe this is part of government's responsibility, period. Especially with the current business and economic and individuals struggling in our economy. And to take $2.2 million plus of taxpayer funds to purchase commercial real estate, I think is not an appropriate use of the funds. Even though it was presented with a long-term impact, which I think is phenomenal. I have had 12 years in banking. I have been on loan committee for 10 years. I've seen projects like this with not taxpayer dollars fall through, where long-term leases have been signed by major corporations and the investors took the hit because they just walked away from their lease. I don't think this is going to happen here, but I've got a little bit different experience. You know what, and even though I've had that experience, I picked up the phone and the comment was, remember, I've got this banking and federal government experience, so I went and called 5 banks to see if the feds were really coming down on them, because I knew the feds couldn't. I knew what they could do is look at portfolios, and they can look and say only X percentage of your portfolio in dollars should go to raw land, period. To my surprise, the feds have cranked down a little bit. Of the 5 banks, 3 of them said that they would do commercial loans, and one of them said his commercial loan expectations and goals were immensely grown. In other words, his goals to get transactions like this were put on the front burner and 25% of what he did previously. So I know there are banks out there that will lend. They will lend to LLCs, corporations. We are a municipality with government, with taxpayer dollars. I think that was the second point. The third point is, you know, the airport property. That is in my mind, we own that property. Of course, we already own that. We don't own the mall. We don't own the other properties. I just think what a business owner is doing, the fourth point, it's not fair. $2.2 million when some businesses that have gone out of business would have loved to have the city of Prescott step up for them. We have not. And do you think it's fair that we are doing this and getting into a land leasing commercial business when private enterprise could do it? But and I explained to Mr. Kirkendall, Mayor Kirkendall, if I would have known, I would have put my dog and pony show on and looked for private investors. $2 million. For me, as a taxpayer, is a lot of money, but there are investors out there who would, and I'm challenging you, if you have an investor group, there are a couple banks right here in town that would love to talk to you and bring this forward. I just absolutely do not think it's government's responsibility. And thanks to those companies who have stuck with us through the economic downturn. You have paid our tax dollars. You have paid for police, fire, kept water going. And it would be unfair if I decided to give $2.2 million to an entity that hasn't. Thanks.
Anyone else, Council?
One quick comment, I suppose. And the fact that this is probably an unusual way to do business, but I believe as a businessman, it's a return on our investment that we can't lose. What we do know, what we stand to lose, is the fact that state government is taking away some of our general fund, which has to do directly with our police and fire department. That's absolutely a given, has been for the last 3 years. We also know for a fact that Walmart is coming to Prescott Valley. the property's built, the plans are in the department. When that happens, that's going to take another 40, probably to 50% taxable sales tax revenue from the Walmart that we have on Highway 89. We do, 69, we do as a municipality and a government have not necessarily the right, but we have the responsibility to make sure we look outside the box when necessary to provide gap measures that stop the bleeding, especially in times like this. With Trader Joe's comes in, it provides us an immediate stop bleeding of our sales tax revenues by other companies outside of the community that we have no control over to be able to stop that. That's part of what I look at as far as keeping this community healthy. I support this 100%. The return on investment is better than any business deal I've seen, and the city only stands to lose 0 as far as I'm concerned.